We'll call the meeting to order at 6:35. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda, we have correspondence, visitors, and public comment. The board did receive correspondence today from parent Jennifer Bailey about the proficiency-based grading that we had a presentation on a few weeks back now, a few meetings ago. Again, requesting information on what changes we made. So a brief update on that is that we had been talking about having a presentation to the board again in August. It sounds like there will be some information coming sooner than that, with a parent meeting sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
And then some information to the board, probably in, well, it'll be in one of our June meetings at this point, or
it may be May 31st.
Okay.
Yep.
So that is the update there. There will be some more information coming soon on that. Anyone here in attendance that would like to make public comments? Come right up. Please state your name for the camera before you begin.
Hello everyone, I'm James Sullivan. I'm with the Ag Advisory Committee. I'm just here to affirm that I could be on May 31st agenda. We've had an Ag meeting, the committee has, with one of our teachers, three didn't show up. But, so there is some stuff that we have to present. And in doing that, there was a meeting with the state with Ruth Derby, and she made a statement that our ag program can only accommodate NVU students. And we believe that is not true. We think we can have other students from like Northwest or Coal Hollow or whatever come to our program. If somebody could, before the 31st, talk to Ruth Derby and have that clarified, and if that statement is true.
I was at that meeting with Derby, so I'll be happy to follow up with her.
So who is Bruce Derby?
Ruth Durkee's in charge of technical education at the Agency of Education.
Unless things have changed, he's wrong.
She, I think it's Ruth.
She, Ruth.
Ruth. Oh, she, okay. I mean, it's always better, you're a satellite center.
We're not a satellite center. We are a comprehensive high school. We're the only one left in Vermont. And we're approved to teach MVU students diversified agriculture. But I will double check with Ruth.
But she's saying that you cannot accept students from other schools?
Not unless they're enrolled at MVU as students. Through school choice.
See, and from what I'm being told, I don't think, we have had students from other schools attend our school in past years. So that clarification is kind of important in a lot of the stuff that
I don't know, Julie, if there's anything ever filed in a report, but about 10 years ago, John Fisher, who was deputy commissioner, I believe, paid a visit there, commended the people, and at that time there was a discussion about students from Coal Hollow coming. So somebody probably needs to do some research. I don't mean you, but somebody.
All right, thanks, Jim. We'll
so
definitely follow up on that.
like I say, so for the 31st. Right,
Yeah, we haven't set the
next
agenda.
meeting?
I haven't set the agenda yet. I've written you down. We'll see what we can do. All right. If not, then we have a packed agenda for the 31st. I already know, so
Yeah,
we'll see how things.
I'd say it's, I mean, yeah, I know there's nothing we can do for this year's school thing, just like we've been through this for the last so-and-so, and we know that it's something that needs to be approached. Thank you.
Alright, thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments? Seeing none. Alright, next is agenda review. Do we have any agenda amendments?
I don't know.
I have a question. I don't say it has to be there, but I thought the policy committee might be bringing forward a resolution.
Those are on the.
Is it on here
agenda,
somewhere and I
yes.
missed
Yes,
it?
they are.
Oh, board resolutions, okay, all right, good. So we're just gonna have more than one, I was looking for one
Yes.
with a name on it, you know, a resolution on, okay, all right.
Alright, next we have approval of the minutes of May 3rd. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Peter is the first. Is there a second?
A second.
Rennick is the second. Any discussion? Terry?
I just had one discussion, one comment, I don't know if it's that important or not, but when we talk about the portrait of a graduate, it does say in there that the sentence under supervisory, it says something about it's been a 2-year process with input and it sounds like it's the survey that gave the input as opposed to the whole, I don't have it right in front of me, but there were a lot of meetings, there was a lot of stuff, not just a survey. So I thought we might want to change that just years down the road. People say, what?
Certainly.
I would have
It'll
told.
come up in my presentation and you can say, there, that's the space for that. Be happy to do that.
So are you proposing any changes here, Terry?
Yes, I'm just proposing that we change that part.
That we,
Oh, in the minutes.
in the
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry, I didn't read the minutes until today, or I would have asked Pierrette sooner.
okay.
Sorry, Pierrette.
So to add some more detail around, some clarification around,
Right.
the timeline of the portion.
What's involved, not just the survey.
Sure.
Or just drop that part about the survey and they'll be fine.
Well, we'll keep it in there. We talked about it.
Okay. Okay.
Any other discussion? Alright, all those in favor of approving the minutes for May 3rd with the adjustments noted, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Alright, and that leads us right into a portrait of a graduate, Julie.
So I am not in the meeting, so I think I should probably do that so I can share up there. That makes the most sense. Forgive me for rushing about. Robert's gonna have to let me in. And he needs to allow me to share.
Slow down.
You know me, I don't slow down.
Click, click, click.
Hurry up.
Very good.
Nope, it worked. So I want to thank Beth Ann, who's sitting here next to me, so she can help me with this presentation. She is one of the central office administrators that helped with this portrait of a graduate process. Terry was on the group that met all of last year and joined somewhat this year. Our principals were also heavily involved. I spent a great deal of time in Yeshua's office with kids this year doing this process. So I before I even start, I just want to echo what Terry said. It's a multi-year process, and we've had a lot of in-person meetings, even during COVID, to do this work and to get input from our students. And Beth Ann has done a tremendous job this year of trying to have it live in the after-school world as well. So we have 4 parts we're going to go over. I'm going to try, in the interest of time, not to linger too much in the past, but we do want to speak a little to what is the portrait of a graduate. We've had people talk to us about what's your vision and mission. Well, all of our schools have mission statements. And we really wanted to be purposeful in having a set of core values for the merged district that would really speak to what we value in a student that graduates from our school system. So that was really the purpose of going through this process, rather than have another mission statement that says all students will be above average, fabulous citizens, and all mission statements basically say the same 4 sentences. So we wanted something that was a little more direct with our input from our community. Obviously, what our process was, what we have narrowed down to our final 6 characteristics, and then what the next steps are. So, what is a portrait of a graduate? That little clip just has children saying those words. I don't know why that's going so fast. A portrait of a graduate really serves as that North Star, or just a direction for a school system transformation. Really provides strategic direction for any redesign work in the overall educational experience for students. And this collective vision really is intended to reinvigorate and re-engage students, educators, and community stakeholders. Now, we started this whole process and then COVID hit, so it kind of made the community engagement aspect of it a little more difficult, but we really did do it, and we had a lot of participation from people in our community. It's also important to note that a district's portrait of a graduate is meant to complement academics and test scores as measures of preparedness. While it does not replace a focus on academic achievement, it shows the district community's commitment to investing in educational experiences that educate the whole child. So it's more well-rounded than just, we want students to do really well on those SBAC test scores. So, we're not going to show these, but in your board drive, there are a couple of videos that were produced last year. One is a video of me talking about my vision for a portrait of a graduate and why I think it's important. And the other comes from some of our students who served on the group last year. So it's worthwhile to listen to the student video. If you're really interested, you can listen to me as well. Here's a word cloud that came out of our process of things that were really important to our community. So I'm going to speak a little bit about our process. And yes, taxes is there because an awful lot of kids talked about wanting to learn how to do taxes. I'm not entirely sure what that was about. It was tax season, so they probably were paying attention to their family.
Can I just add something?
Yes.
Lest we forget, the board did have a little bit of a taste of this.
Yes.
And Peter, when we were talking about what, I forget what it was. Do you remember when we were talking about what we want to see or something?
Yeah.
Because they asked us that, in the very beginning of the process. I don't know if you're going to talk about that. I just thought it was.
We did a source story together as a school board. What are our strengths and opportunities and aspirations, which we sort of changed to hope so that kids would understand it, and solutions. So yes,
We did it as a board.
we had a presentation
Oh, that's
last year, and we did some of that last year. I found it was very helpful. So just a little bit of that, we did. See, I listed the source stories on there. We had monthly meetings, virtually and in person, for 2 years. We had youth-led surveys for elementary, middle, and high school students. We had student-led presentations about what's happening in particularly, it's interesting, the elementary students are sort of taking this on to what they're looking for in their school, because it's hard for them to focus beyond their own school. We had the source stories that happened with lots of different groups of people last year, and I believe that was a part of the report out last year to you all. Elementary students had great input in drawing what their perfect school, what was important to them in their school. We had some student videos. The public speaking class did some student videos about these topics and what graduates should have in our school. We had the thought exchange. We did some other in-person data collection that came together as well. And we also had a group that came together and looked at the Portrait of a Graduate website and their characteristics that they list and what that means. And they did some analyzing of that information together to see which were most important given the feedback received. So we did some analysis together as well. Here's an example of the student work. And what's fascinating is this kindergarten student, probably kindergarten, maybe first grade, wrote, "I wish that people would be honest, comforted, kind to one another, and hardworking." And frankly, this showed up in our survey from parents, from teachers, from high school students. It really was pretty on point, what people think are important.
Portrait of a graduate right there.
Yes, not bad at all.
Did I have all the things I need to know I learned in kindergarten?
So these are the source stories. This is the compilation of what happened last year, Terry, that you were speaking to. A list of what the students analyzed as our strengths and opportunities. So definitely looking for more opportunities to personalize learning there. Hopes for more personalized instruction, lots of variety in learning opportunities, welcoming feeling, and health, mental health, dental services available in school. And then results, how they would know when it was going well. All students being engaged in learning and reporting being happy at school, college and career ready when they graduate, and feeling safe and secure at school. So that was last year. When we did the thought exchange this year, which happened in stages, and you can click on this link here in your board drive. Also, it is on our MVSD Facebook page, it's published there. And you can see every single thought. There were a lot of them, 17 pages of thoughts. We had a lot of participation. We had a lot of high school students. It was done in our high school social studies classes for a period of time so that students had context about what this was. We had a presentation in front of the faculty at MVU so that they had the context of what this was. Elementary teachers participated, administrators participated, hundreds of parents participated. Pardon me. So once we went through and themed, and as I said, we had a collaborative exercise where we took the most prevalent, most agreed upon thoughts, and we tried to categorize them in some of those portrait of a graduate phrases or words. And those words and phrases have a little density to them, so they're critical thinking, what that might mean. So people looked at those paragraphs, what those concepts mean, and then took thoughts and aligned them. So we started that process, and then in the end, I took all of that, took the narrowing that group did, and took all of the thoughts and assigned them to different themes that made sense. So what you're seeing here in this, you see the star is orange here. It's kind of hard to see at such a distance. That means these are the topics that had the most consensus, the most agreement, over 4 stars in a 5-star system. And critical thinking was the most agreed upon area. Next was collaboration, leadership, problem solving, confidence, empathy, global citizenship, citizenship in general, integrity, being a learner and having that growth learning mindset, responsibility, self-goal directed, independent kind of thinking, communication, perseverance, and knowledge. When I look at it differently in terms of what was the most frequently reported, knowledgeable came up, and that was mostly because anything that had to do with a subject area, a content, or an approach to learning fell under that category. So everything from doing taxes to math to English to hands-on learning opportunities, ag science opportunities, those kinds of things all fall in that bucket. So that's why it's so huge. Anything that has to do with what you learn or how you learn it, essentially. But again, that was the most commonly mentioned. Then responsible perseverance, all those same things, but you get a sense of how it looks. So we did a lot of evaluating of those characteristics and getting those 13 to 15 down to 6 took a lot of work. So, I made this a link. Why did I do that? I wanted to show you quickly what all these characteristics look like. You can see what I'm talking about. Here's the word conscientious. If I click view more, and I can't make this bigger, folks, maybe I can a little bit. You can get a sense that there's 3 bullets there that sort of explain what they mean by conscientious. Now, we don't have to take that. It's a starting point. So when I talked about the analysis that some students and community members did with us, and then our administrative team did that work again and further refined it, we were looking at these words and these meanings, looking at examples of others, and I'm gonna go back, pardon me, so I can figure out how to do that. There we go. And we took that work to then help us narrow the characteristics to 6, and then flesh out that what we're defining those to be. So, what are the 6? We came up with, and there was a lot of wordsmithing.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of nodding going on there. Responsible citizenship, independence and initiative, knowledgeable and proficient, collaborative leadership, critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and effective communication. There's a lot of nesting within that. So responsible was its own idea, citizenship was its own idea. There's a lot of overlap there in terms of understanding your role in your community, being individually responsible and responsible to a larger community, for example. So, to share a little bit of and you know what, I'm gonna pass out the examples here for you so you can look at them. I think that would probably be very helpful. Let's see, people in the peanut gallery behind you. 3, I don't know how many are. So, under effective communication, on one side you have a visual, on the other side you have it delineated out with the characteristics. Listening effectively and empathetically to decipher meaning while considering knowledge, values, and attitudes and intentions. Articulate thoughts and ideas using oral, written, and nonverbal communication in a variety of ways. Incorporate multiple perspectives. And utilize multiple media and technologies to express a message. Collaborative leadership. Inspire positive action in others while seeking feedback to achieve collective outcomes. Demonstrate empathy and elicit diverse perspectives and contributions. Show a fundamental regard and respect for the dignity and value of every individual. Independence and initiative. Persist to achieve well-being and success despite challenge, opposition, and/or failure. Commit to meeting obligations and responsibilities. And take initiative and act with purpose. Under responsible citizenship, demonstrate personal integrity, honesty, and ethical behavior. Actively pursue opportunities that make a positive difference in their community and the broader world. be informed and accountable stewards of the community. Under knowledgeable and proficient, took the learner's word, because I felt like it was just an extra word we didn't need.
I think that's fair.
All learners. We were wordsmithing down to the last. Embrace curiosity and the desire to learn. Engage with and apply rigorous academic content in meaningful ways, including real-life situations. Develop positive attitudes and beliefs about learning. Critical thinking and problem solving. Identify, evaluate, prioritize solutions to complex problems. I'll tell you, I couldn't find one teacher that didn't put critical thinking somewhere. It was rated. Apply thinking that is clear, rational, open-minded, and informed by evidence. Propose solutions and understand the impact they may have at the local, national, or global level. So next steps. Obviously, we're gonna want the board to think on this. I don't want you to make a motion today to adopt them because there's a lot in here and I'd like you to, I don't want you to wordsmith them, honestly. There, I'm being very honest. But no, I want the board to look at them, think about them, come back, ask any questions that you like between now and our next board meeting or the board meeting in June, and then we could do it at a later time. I think it's a lot to just, here they are, adopt them. We would then want to create a visual. The visual you see is a template. We want some of the visuals that school districts make are just beautiful. There's some we'd love to steal and others that we would want no part of. But I think we could get some really great input from students, and then we could have something that makes a lot of sense visually that connects to our district. And then really use this as a core for our strategic planning and for what's important to us as a district. Obviously, we already know college and career readiness is important to us. We know that students who struggle should be meeting standards and we want high expectations of our students. We're already talking about those things. But what are the other things we can do in our educational program that will support citizenship, that will support responsibility and independence? So we want that to really be at the center point. Here's an example. This is the states. There's talk about well-being, critical thinking and problem solving, communication, proficiency, global citizenship, learner agency, not dissimilar to what came out. Here's one from Windsor. This is being done across the country. Here's one I really like. It's really pretty. You can't steal it.
No.
Unfortunately.
We could make it bigger, can't you?
And here's just a picture of our kids on the playground going around. The wheels, these are the students that we want to grow and represent all of these characteristics. So, questions?
I got a question for Beth Ann.
Beth Ann, yes.
Yeah, were you getting more feedback from like the elementary students or from the high school students when you were like coming up with this?
I spent most of my time at the elementary level, but we were able to get information from everybody, whether it was a Google form or a survey that we would pass out after school in our programs. During the school day, we had a couple of classes dedicate their time to the thought exchange at MVU. But me personally, I spent most of my time at the elementary level.
Do they like understand what this is?
So we focused with 5th and 6th graders primarily, and it was really interesting to see what developed from this, where we realized we had to scale back a bit, because we were saying, when you graduate MVU, but they're just not there yet, right? So they were really the ones, our 6th graders in particular, were the ones to guide the conversation into, well, what about when we graduate elementary school? How can we prepare to be learners at MVU? What kind of values can we bring from our elementary schools to then unite at MVU? And then that kind of helped get the ball rolling for them to better understand
what then it would look like to join all these elementary schools in a larger community at MVU. So I thought that was a really valuable way, again, just sort of to get the ball rolling on the conversation. And our 6th graders, as you all I'm sure are familiar, are brilliant. I was so impressed with, especially the Franklin kids that I spent most of my time with. They took this project and they ran with it, and it was really incredible to see how much ownership they want to take over their own education and how they want to have a voice in the conversation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Do we tie this to personalized learning plans?
I think
Or is
that
that the goal or something?
I think personalized learning plans is a really great example of how having really solid PLPs would then get us to some of these outcomes. Initiative, leadership, because students then have more control and understanding of their own learning, they're more self-directed. That came through in so many of the student inputs. I think there were 500 MVU students that participated, and many of them talked about wanting experiences that were outside of the classroom, where they could do more hands-on things, where they could do projects, where they could collaborate with others, where they could have more voice in what they do. It was some pretty powerful feedback.
It just seemed to me that as we do this transition from grade 6 to 7, I know it's fairly simple, but it's never simple if you're a parent or a 6th grader like going there. That this would be a real good time for these students to see the connection that you're going to have you have a personal learning plan, and these are some of them. So it's really good. Thank you.
Anything else for Julie and the team?
Before we're going to not vote on this tonight, but at some point we are going to vote to accept it.
Yes, I think it's good for the board to look them over, maybe ask some questions of me, send me an email if they have any thoughts. It's been through the administrative team more than they care to say. But I think it was a good process, but we want to make sure that the board feels that it represents them as well. And so having it formally adopted could then just lead into the what next. You know, do we reflect some of it in our strategic planning? Does it become a center point as a set of values for us as a district?
I guess I have a suggestion or a request that before we do that we invite a parent or parents involved in this and students. It would be, I think, does two things. If we have questions, we can get it from, as they say, the horse's mouth. But not that you don't tell us the truth. But the other thing is, I think it validates in their mind, this is pretty important stuff. You know, I'm really impressed with what Chris is doing with his students in the hiring process. That validates that we are important people. And I think all the work is important, but to come before the board and be available to either share or answer questions, I think makes it a powerful statement. So I'll ask the chairperson to consider that.
I would consider that. Thanks, Don.
Just for clarification, so adopting this is it like in lieu of like a mission statement? Is it just like its own thing that exists?
Yeah, so step in if I say anything incorrect here, but it is its own thing, but it'll be a North Star for us as well. We have our vision statement. We're going to want to try to align these things. The strategic planning is going to be part of our retreat in July. You know, if we adopt these qualities of a graduate and saying this is, you know, what we want to be achieving with the students who graduate, then we need to consider our board goals and our district goals in that light, and just make sure everything's working together to achieve that. We'll have lots of things, the PLPs we talked about, with the continuous learning or continuous improvement plans coming up. So the work is going to be in definitely tying this stuff together, making sure everything's rowing in the same direction and it's consistent. Anything else on the Terry?
I just have the last question, and that is, You had mentioned that you were gonna do some kind of visual with this, that's
Not me, I don't have that time.
That's what I was wondering, who's gonna do that? How is that gonna happen? Is that after we approve that?
Yes, I think you should approve the characteristics first, and then we can work with probably students to get some ideas, and then we would work with a professional to generate a graphic design for it.
I don't know if his, I guess we're on TV, but that's all. Jason Barney does some good work. I don't know if he's interested or if his work, Jason, if you're listening, is of the quality we want, but he does some pretty good work. Thank you, videos, and he's had a couple of really good presentations to the public regarding the Historical Society in Swampton. And I don't think I could offend Jason.
I don't think that's offensive in any way. He won't be offended by it.
It's a compliment.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for that. Next on the agenda, we have elementary administrative updates. We'll start with Highgate tonight. Yeshua?
Wonderful, thank you. One of the first things I want to highlight is we have our SBAC pep rally, which was something that I inherited, but it's actually probably one of my favorite traditions. So our younger grade classrooms actually get paired up with our students that are doing SBAC, and we actually have this big old pep rally. And I can. And the kids, we all go into the gym together, and then each of the classrooms come in, go kind of around the whole group, and we have signs. We're all excited. And this year was medieval themed. And so we had jousting at the end, and it was lots of safe jousting, plastic and foam. And I have a dinosaur blow-up costume, and so I decided to bring a dinosaur with me, which was super fun, but super hot that I didn't remember until I was experiencing it. Lots of kind of end-of-year stuff. We're doing placement. It's a big one. So we're trying right now. We have almost all of our placement lists done, which means all of our new classrooms set for the next school year. And I'm still assigning teachers to those lists, as well as assigning paras to which classrooms they're going to be in based on need. Another big thing I'm trying to do is, if you didn't know, our pre-K numbers are pretty big for next year. We actually have over 30 4-year-olds and over 15 3-year-olds, which means we need more than one classroom. So we're actually going to have 1.4 preschool classrooms next year. So I've been working on our floor plan to accommodate for that. So there certainly will be some shifting of classrooms to make that work. But it's very exciting because actually the last couple of years we've had low pre-K enrollment, mostly due to the pandemic, I think. So we're excited to actually be focusing on pre-K expansion, which actually for Wendy and I is a goal of Highgate to get to 2 classrooms. So it's nice to see that just even, people want it, even beyond that we want it. So that's wonderful. Just for some important dates happening, we do have our Cliff family event on May 25th, which is 5:30 to 7 p.m., which is kind of our way to invite families in and kind of celebrate the year we've had with Cliff. We also have our band and choir concert on 5/26 at 6:30 to 8. So it's going to be a busy week. So if you want to come to Highgate, just come on and stick around for a while. We also have field days on June 8th, which is the day before school gets out. And again, one of the most fun things I've probably done is the Water Fun Parade, which this is the 3rd annual one. And if you haven't experienced it, even if you just show up at Highgate.
I've been soaked.
Yeah. I was very reluctant last year, actually, because I didn't know how the whole thing would go. But it really is incredible, and we get a really, really big turnout, actually.
It is.
And we drive all the way around different parts of Highgate, and it really is amazing. I think one of my favorite memories was I was in one trailer, and to get a couple of students, a couple of BST members decided to get off the trailer and kind of go behind them. And one 5th grader was looking at us like, "How are you getting me wet?" without realizing the person was behind her and had snuck out. So it's a lot of fun. So even if you can't even just drive by, it really is incredible. And I, in fact, got very wet last year and lost a contact because someone actually had a hose close enough and would just pop that sucker right out. So that was interesting. The last big thing we're working on is we will have a number of new classrooms next year, but actually some shifts in grades. So some teachers that have been teaching in the same grade level are actually going to be shifting next year. So we're really working with Laura and Kosha about how we can find money for that, because we really feel like these teachers that are going to different assignments, they need PD related to their new teaching assignments or new to the profession or just other district initiatives. So we're really kind of working on that right now about getting some good money for that so we can support our new folks. But I think that's everything for me.
Can I just add the water parade so I could be prepared is when?
June 13th
Okay.
at 4 p.m.
6:13.
Definitely be prepared.
I will
Get your
ask
things.
to work. And I just want to reiterate Terry and Julie and I think Joanne was there at the meeting the other night. I had an aspect meeting with my daughter downstairs and I had 2 pages of questions but I tell you I got 2 wrong. Yeah.
Oh, sorry to hear it.
Yeah, but I had the chalkboard and everything going, so
Yep.
the aspect thing, it's, I think going well.
Yeah, it seemingly is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've come in, because we actually have the bulk of the kids in here for each grade level, and then we
Oh.
kind of spread kids out, those that have different accommodations, and I mean, you truly could hear a pin drop, especially now on the tile floor. I could probably throw one and I'd hear it, because kids are very focused.
And
And if you didn't know, walking in, there's even signs around made by kids that say, you can do it, you got SBAC, you know.
but
So
they
it's
were
very-
well prepared.
Yeah, good. Very good to hear that.
Yep.
Yes, Renee.
For the SBAC, how many questions were there?
I actually want to say one of them averages like 37 or 40, and then the performance task itself depends. One of them for math is actually only like 4 questions, but they're all in a performance, so they have to do something with the math, and all the questions are related. So like for example, one I remember from a while ago, don't worry, it's not recent, I can get this information. It was about planting a garden, and so you had to understand all the things you had, how much square feet you need, and then the kids in the end had to say, based on the garden and the total square footage, I can have these different plants. And then
Well,
that's
I
their
got
performance.
screwed. I ended up with 12 questions.
Well, that's why one is very long, one is closer to 40, and then one is actually only a few. But like for the performance task performance task for language arts, they're writing a piece of a formal paper, either argumentative, informational, but they're using different sources. So they have to read through all the sources, come up with a thesis statement, so to speak, all their evidence referring to the sources. So it's only a few questions, but it's a lot of work.
And
Terry, what was the question though? Johnny had a billion paper clips and
And Sue had some last
Sue
time,
had-
did you have?
yeah, I couldn't do the math. I didn't know.
She didn't tell you how many
No.
she had. His daughter made out the
Yes.
test.
that was pretty good.
Oh man.
And this is the other thing I want to, do they, when they're doing it, they just do it on their own? There's no help or anything, or is
It
there?
all depends on the students, and you can get either designated supports or accommodations. And designated supports mean the school team has decided they can get certain supports like separate setting or more time or something like that. Accommodations are based on a plan, so a 504 or an IEP. And that's all determined with some parent input and mostly a team decision. But it all depends on the student. It's a very catered to what the student needs to be successful on the test. But it's also supposed to be regular supports they use daily in the classroom. So it's not like, oh, we're gonna give them a scribe because it's the SBAC. They have a scribe, they always need a scribe, and they're using that for the SBAC.
When did we get like, to see how they did?
Individual student information usually goes out in the fall.
Yep.
At report card time.
Yep.
And it all depends on when the state allows us to,
That's right.
Yes.
Because we still haven't gotten the year before. is that
no,
right?
they just
Correct.
sent them out, but basically it's a year later, so it's not particularly helpful.
Alright, anything else for Yeshua and Height? Go ahead, Jen.
Just wondering what you're doing for graduation this year. Are you
Great
gonna have it
question.
over?
Yeah, we had a meeting with 6th grade families, and they actually did decide to have it over in the arena again. Then we'll get a stage again, I borrowed from Sheldon. And the after party that is planned by parents will actually still happen in the arena.
I was a huge fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
How it was done last year, and the kids being able to sit with their parents. That was great.
Yeah, parents did decide not to actually have kids sit with them, they would prefer them next to the stage. But I did give that as an option. Yeah, and no squares, we're not gonna, thank God, no squares.
I thought it was a really good setup over there.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Good.
When is graduation?
June 8th. No, not June, June 7th. June 7th. 6 p.m. for us.
So the field days is the date after.
Is the day after graduation. Yep. And
Yes, sir.
6th grade parents have been invited. That they did say if kids would like to come back, they're more than welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, so you mentioned teachers with, teaching different grade levels.
Yes.
I'm a strong believer in that. Are these teachers who requested to move, or was it a reassignment?
Good question. One team, it was me suggesting I would love to see them go up to 6th grade. Because I think they were a very solid team. I would like to see them at our highest grade, and they eventually, with discussing with each other and myself and putting some supports in place for them to feel like they'll be successful, they actually agreed and said they would love to go up to 6th
My
grade.
history says that those that might resist it the most will enjoy it the most once they do it.
Yeah.
No,
But no actual situation where I said, I am directing you to teach this grade. I think anyone I wanted to shift, they kind of came to that decision with me.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, that's right.
Thank you.
Joyce, we'll do Franklin on next.
Oh, I'm next. I don't know, I'm still thinking about that water parade because I'm having deja vu from when I volunteered to do a homemade dunking booth at MVU in the middle school. And they did not put enough water in it, and I did not walk well for several weeks after. So, yeah, so I'm thinking water me, no. Anyway, sorry, bad deja vu there. So, I'll start with a few things from April. We were really excited to have the ECHO presentation for our STEM festival, an all-day festival, science, technology, engineering, and math early in April. And there were 2 stations that were guided by ECHO staff members, the airplane launchers and the Lego gravity racers. And then there were 6 self-guided stations that the kids could just move around to as they wanted to and stay. You know, somebody, if they wanted to stay at one the whole time, they could. It just was really a wonderful day. One thing I really thought was one of the best things was when we had to do the scheduling, there was just a certain amount of time that they could be there. And we ended up, our 3-year-olds went at the same time as our 6th graders. And the ECHO people actually commented just on how wonderful that sense of community was with the 6th graders, with the 3-year-olds, and just how much of a help they were. And that was really wonderful. And I thought the pictures that I put in my report kind of captured just the excitement of the kids and how much fun they had. And you know what I'm all saying, learning can be fun. And they had a great day. And we're really hoping to do that again. I put in about all the assessments that are happening in May, not just SBAC, that's a biggie, but there's all kinds of assessments for all the grades going on in May. And we will be looking at all of those assessments in June when we're talking about the individual programming for all the kids, for next year. We'll have transition meetings, sharing all that information with the next year's teacher. We'll be looking at any kids doing summer enrichment and making sure we tailor that summer enrichment to what they showed on those assessments they might need over the summer. And also looking at the end of year data for our school goals for next year and what we might want to work on there. I'm kind of stumbling on that because I really stress to the kids, you have to try so hard on SBAC because if you don't, we could work on things that we don't need to as a school. So you really got to try your absolute hardest. And as Yeshua was saying, I am always amazed at how hard the kids work. We tell them that that's what we expect. That's our number 4 rule at Franklin, but I think it's the most important one. Always do your best. And they are working really hard. I don't know how they're going to score, but they are working hard. I popped in here too that our new guidance counselor was doing something a little bit different with doing some career exploration. I don't know if any of you had a chance to try that, click and do that PowerPoint presentation, but she decided to kind of kick off the career exploration with a slideshow that has pictures from various staff members and 2 clues about that staff member and the kids trying to figure out who that staff member was. And a lot of the staff members went to the classes to kind of see the game that the kids were playing, and it was great. Everybody had such fun, and it was great for the kids for doing the game as a team. And one little kid right off recognized a picture and said, "That's Miss Bucci." And but the little girl that had the whiteboard didn't say, and everybody had a number they were supposed to put up, and she put up a number for a different staff member And he was like, I told you it was Miss Bush. and they had to work that out. And so that teamwork was also part of it. But it was really good in terms of kids hearing that, not everybody when they started out wanted, ended up in that career that they had first wanted. Because one of the questions was, what did you want to be when you grow up? And what was your first job? And so it really showed them that, you're not going to know when you're 8 or 9, you might not know. Of course, everybody guessed me because I said I always wanted to be a teacher, and I was teaching those kids in my neighborhood at their little desks. They didn't always guess my picture, though. I don't know if did any of you even click on this and try it?
Not yet, so.
Okay, well, I won't tell you which one was me then. You have to try to figure it out. But I hope you have fun with it. And it was a great kickoff to the career unit for her. And, I told you quite a bit about the penny war, about how, and I wanted to explain why I did that, because it wasn't so you would know all the rules, but I just wanted you to see how much real math is involved with the penny war, from converting the dollars to pennies, and the sorting and the counting, and, the addition and subtraction, and the strategy of trying to figure out how you can be the penny war champion. And it was the best one we ever had, because every day a different class had won, and so anybody could have won on that Friday. And so it was really the best one we've ever had. And first grade ended up being the penny war champion. And I put a little picture of the plaque, because the kids it's like so cool to have the plaque. One of the first years we did it, the kids were like, well, are we gonna have like a party, if we win and have food? And I was like, no, we're not doing a penny war to make money for, the food shelf and then have a party. No, we're not doing that. But we have a plaque with so they have that. And it was the best thing, though, and I don't know if everybody read the report, but in 5 days, those kids brought in $1,184 in 5 days. So that feeds a lot of families for quite a length of time. So that was not too much of today's prices, but the way it used to be was when they would, the food shelf goes to the food bank, it ends up being quite a bit more money with the way the food bank operates. What else did I talk about? The music festival, I don't know if anybody had a chance to go to that, but the district music festival opened to students in Franklin and Grand Isle counties, and there were 100, I think, band and 60 chorus, something like that. And we had a lot of students from MVU and from the elementary schools, and that is just always, I think, an incredible experience for the students, any teachers that are involved with that, and it's always just the most wonderful concert. So I wanted to highlight that. So in addition to all the assessment, because we feel like May just really is a big assessment month, we're continuing to work on our pre-K to K transition. We just had another meeting last night talking about all the kids coming into kindergarten, grade 6 to grade 7, more activities happening around that. We met with the 7th grade teachers. The step-up day is coming up very soon. Several activities. JR was just at our school today talking about the summer program at MVU for 6th graders, and pumping that up a little bit and trying to get some more numbers, because again, that's another great transition activity. And everybody's busy planning our end of the year fun and fitness day, our field trips. 6th grade graduation, we're on June 7th also. All the elementary schools are June 7th. And working already on trying to get our kids in for summer programming. Just mentioning a few upcoming things. Our spring concert is also Thursday, the 26th, and we have not had one for 3 years, and it is usually wall-to-wall people, so we are really looking forward to that. And that's every grade and our band and chorus. And that's at 6:30. I did want to mention Memorial Day in Franklin is back to usual. So we will be having a parade in Franklin that the school will be a part of. We'll be doing presentations at Town Hall. And the 5th grade will be putting on the barbecue. And I am really thankful to not be riding around in the back of a truck or a wagon again this year. So, walking is much safer. And what else? I think that's Fun and Fitness Day is Friday, June 3rd. We have a barbecue at that where parents are also invited, and we do all kinds of activities that day. And, I wanted to mention, I was so worried. Dawn asked last meeting about our art teacher, our one professional position that we had to fill. And I think I live under a lucky star to try to find an art teacher 1 day a week. And we have found someone. And I want to thank my committee and our 5th grade class. whenever we have a person come to demo teach, after we interview, we invite people back to demo teach. And our 5th grade students then answered questions about what did they think was done well in the lesson? What did the teacher do well in the lesson? Do you think there was anything that could have been done differently in the lesson? And what did you learn from this lesson? Every kid that had the demo lesson answers those questions. And they just always give like the really, really, really good feedback. So again, that, getting that input from kids and, but we were so excited. And Julie just confirmed tonight that she's talked with her and we're good.
She's on the list for tonight.
So make sure we sign that. So we're just incredibly happy about that because I did think that was going to be a tough position to fill. And so that was wonderful. I think that's it for me. I did want to just mention that last year, when I did school report information, I had some samples of SBAC questions. I don't know if anybody still has that booklet or some of you are new, but I had put samples of SBAC questions. So then we can get those back out, you guys, so you have the real questions. Thank you.
Joyce, any questions for Joyce for Franklin?
Oh, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. My husband always hated that. I'll say, he thinks I'm done talking, it's one more thing. I'm sorry. But I just have to say, the presentation that the Portrait of a Graduate students, they started doing their presentations this past week, and they had 22 first graders just eating out of their hands and so totally attentive. It was just unbelievable.
Okay.
And it was really a nice presentation, but I just wanted to tell you, I don't know if you've seen the video, but at the end, they have a slide at the end saying a big shout out to Beth Ann Miller. And they talked about there was the opportunity of a lifetime to participate in this Portrait of a Graduate.
They are rock
12
stars.
years old, opportunity of a lifetime.
Check.
Yes. But they just did a super, and
They're fantastic.
and they tailored it for the different grades a little bit. So with the little ones, when Rennick was asking, the kids understand it, they did this with kindergarten and first grade. But instead of saying like characteristics of a graduate, they said, what do you think would be a good friend, qualities of a good friend, and talked about it that way. So anyway, I said, the big shout out to you, it's funny.
They were great kids. I'm excited to work with them this summer too.
Keep them working.
Oh yeah.
Anything for Joyce? I will just say, Joyce, that the Echo Day, the STEM Day, was an enormous hit. My kids were so excited about it and had a blast, and so it really, the goal I thought was to make kids excited to learn, and it definitely did that. So I was curious if we were able to get that same thing in the other elementary schools. Great.
I was here at the Highgate one, and it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Very good. All right. Last but not least, Swanton.
So just a few things to highlight from my report. We are also finishing up our SBAC testing right now. There was no jousting or medieval work to be done. Thanks for making me feel so inadequate there, buddy. But we are incredibly proud of the perseverance of our students that they've shown in taking those assessments. So we have finished the English language arts and the math portions of those assessments for grades 3 through 6. And tomorrow and Thursday, our 5th graders will take science. And so they'll be finishing up that. And then at the end of this week, the only remaining pieces of SBAC for us will be any makeup assessments that students missed. So my student leadership team has been working on some inspirational support for the students that are taking SBACs. So an example of that is tomorrow when students, the 5th grade students, begin to take their science assessment, they will receive a letter to read prior to the assessment. Where my leadership team has called it the Science-spirational letter, and just talks about all the reasons why our Swanton 5th graders are incredible scientists, just a way to kind of pep people up before the assessment. So we're excited about that, and I want to thank all of our folks for being super flexible. This is a pretty big deal to do all of this scheduling and accommodations and find spaces, and Jen Mitchell and our instructional coaches and others have been really instrumental in that. So it's a lot of work. We are continuing to plug away at our hiring for next year. We were really excited on Monday to interview 2 teacher candidates that we've moved forward in the process, and we're really thrilled about that. So we will continue to, we have a few more positions to fill, and we'll continue to work on that. Special education is proving to be our most challenging positions right now, but we are working with Bonnie Moulton and others to beef up our advertising and think about some strategies. So we're moving along in our hiring. We also had our STEM festival recently at Swanton, the night of May 5th. It was really great to get families back in the building in person, and Joyce gave you a great kind of description of what that looked like, a number of self-guided stations and a couple of facilitated stations. Joyce mentioned the electric paper airplane launcher, which was an incredible hit. And so folks really enjoyed that night, and my understanding is we're already working on getting that back for next year, so that's really exciting. I want to shout out to Jennifer Mitchell, our technology integrationist, for successfully writing an Educate, Innovate initiative grant through the Vermont Lottery. So Jen spent a lot of time preparing this grant. Swanton is fortunate to be one of only 2 schools in the state of Vermont to be awarded this $15,000 grant that involves an application in a variety of materials called EdMerge, and those materials allow us to present curriculum, particularly science, using 3-dimensional technology, and it's super cool. I was in a classroom the other day where Jen was showing a 3-dimensional representation of sound with some of our first graders over in Babcock. So we're very excited to have those boxes of materials arriving and getting those things unpacked and used in classrooms. We are also excited about summer programming for Crossroads. Beth Ann and John Bowser, our Crossroads site person, have been working really hard. We have about 140 plus students that are registered, so we're really pleased with a high registration for the summer, and they're working on some great programming for the summer. We also had our preschool screening recently, which is a great chance for us to see our new families and meet the new students and get a sense of how we can best support our youngest folks that are coming in. And at the same time that our screenings for kindergarten happen, we also are surveying our parents around placement. So we're gathering information for all of our students about their strengths and how we can best place them together in classrooms. And placement is, again, a large project in a school our size, but a great opportunity for us to continue to get to know our kids really well. We had a Pbis learning walk about a week ago. Pbis is the acronym for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. It's the system that we use at Swanton to proactively teach behavior expectations, and the system that we use to respond to rule-breaking behavior. So this is something that Swanton has worked on for several years now, and like so many other things with COVID, the emphasis has shifted a little bit over the last couple of years. So I'm really pleased that we're going to get back to Pbis and those solid systems. We're going to do 2 days of professional development in the fall with Pbis coaches. And those coaches that are going to come in to teach the professional development to our whole staff are the folks that came in about a week ago to walk through the building, to talk with Justina and I about kind of the state of the union of Pbis, and they spoke with students and walked around and made some observations. So we really have the benefit of them coming and doing a site visit to inform the professional development that we need to do in the fall. So that's going to be great. Last couple of things. It sounds like you could stand in any corner of MVSD on May 26th and hear a concert, because we are also having our concert on the evening of May 26th, so I would encourage you to step out on your back porch and you could probably catch somebody's concert the evening of the 26th. But again, it's another way that we're getting families back in the building, and we're really excited for those things to be happening again. Last thing, we have a couple of our sixth grade students that will be receiving middle level scholars awards this year. This is something that our sixth grade team does every year. I'm not going to tell you who those kids are yet, but I will soon. They don't know it yet. But that was a really great opportunity for the sixth grade team and the unified arts teachers and myself to get together to talk about all of the really wonderful qualities of so many of our students. One of the things that I really appreciated about that conversation was that it really focused on not only high quality academic performance, but really who these folks are as a person and how they're treating other people and how they contribute to the climate of our building. And it was a very balanced conversation, which doesn't always happen when you talk about recognitions. So I was really excited about that. And I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions for Swanton? Peter?
Really for everybody, but obviously the SBACs were a big topic tonight, and everybody stressing how important they are and motivating the kids, and how difficult the exams seem. And I know when I had exams, the kids, it was a lot of stress the night before. So I'm just wondering if you're seeing that, how you're dealing with it. Sounds like jousting may be a way to help deal with stress, but I'm just wondering what you see with the kids.
The way that we present this to our students is to really talk about it from two different perspectives. The first one is this is one tool that we use to kind of build a picture of you as a learner. So that's the angle that we take when we talk to students about doing your best. We want to encourage them to do their best, but not stress them out, as you talked about. So we also are really mindful that this is one glimpse in time, and when we build kind of a profile of a student as a learner, SBACs play an important part of that, but they are certainly not the only part of what goes into determining how best we can serve students. The other thing that we talk to students about a lot is, yes, this is in large part about you, but it's also very much the tool that we use to think about instruction and how teachers teach and the materials that we provide and how we allocate our resources. So at the same time that it is about student performance, it's all about our performance as well and the ways that we can be better. So it's a kind of a do your best for you and do your best because you're teaching us at the same time.
And I'd like to just say that back in my early days, it was 3 days off from classes. But the preparation that is going on right now for these tests, it's great. I just think that, and I had to go through it, but but I think everybody's on the same page that the preparation is a big deal. For me, when I was younger, I didn't have to go to math. I didn't have to do algebra. I didn't have to do geometry. So I think it's different. It's really different.
Alright. And final thoughts for the elementary teams? Alright. Thank you all. Next on the agenda, we have new business. We have 2 side letters to review and take action on tonight. Julie?
Absolutely. Which one do we have first? The first side letter is about giving additional professional development funds for our apprentice teachers. Apprentice teachers are teachers of the trades that are going through a Vermont Technical College program to get licensed as tech education teachers. So we have 2 new teachers this year in our ag program, and so we wanted to make sure that they will be able to meet their timelines for licensure, and that is one of the things that we traditionally do is we give them additional professional development. We thought we should put it in the side letter.
Julie, how many courses, how many years is this usually?
Oh gosh, it's a 2-year program, but it's almost 2 years plus. it's very rigorous.
Alright, do any motions to accept this side letter? Terry is the first, is there a second?
Second.
Jen is the second, any discussion on this side letter?
This is an excellent opportunity, I think for us, but it's also for the individual who maybe doesn't have the formal process. So this is great, I've seen it be very successful.
It is, we talk about needing alternate pathways for education, and this is one of them. So thank you.
So this is additional investment in part of the district, is there any additional commitment that comes with it? In terms of requiring the individual to stay with the district for a certain amount of time?
We have not done that, but in these particular positions, there are not other schools that have these positions open, so I think in this particular case, we're fine. I think if we wanted to do something different, that would be a longer conversation.
Gotcha, okay.
And why haven't we've never done this before, or we have, or?
We have case by case approved individuals' professional development, but since we have 2 teachers in this position at this time, we thought that and since we just finished negotiations, we thought it might be appropriate to put it in a side letter.
So in those other individual situations, we haven't done side letters?
We did not. I can always direct you to take a course.
Okay,
So I just directed people to take courses.
okay.
This is, I think, more.
This is more of a response for Toby. About a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we were at Highgate, I think we were at Highgate tonight too, but we were over at the rec center, and we were talking about a lot of things, agriculture was on the agenda. And one of the things that was discussed there was alternate routes for teacher licensing. And so I think, and we talked about it at a board meeting, I believe, a little bit about. So I think if we're gonna make that a focus, I think having this policy is better. But every time since I've been on the board, it seems like somebody has done one with the MVU. And I see that happening more and more.
Any other discussion on this one? Seeing none, alright, those in favor of approving the side letter, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, any abstentions, motion carries 9-0. Alright, we have one more.
The next side letter is one, and we added apprenticeship teachers as well to this. Associate level nurses, we're likely gonna be hiring some, we have some already. Are registered nurses who have an associate's degree rather than a bachelor's degree. Some school districts put them on a non-union contract. Some put them in a separate section of a master agreement. Our district has done different things. And so it came to my attention that before I came here, it was done one way, and then we did it a different way, and I didn't like that. So we wanted to come to the board, the associate agrees. We also have apprenticeship teachers that don't yet have a bachelor's degree or don't have a bachelor's degree, and we place them on the salary schedule in that bachelor column. So I thought that it would be right for us to be consistent in our practice. If you're an associate level nurse or an apprenticeship teacher that is licensed but does not have a bachelor's degree, that you are placed appropriately on the bachelor's column, but you cannot make column movement until you earn a bachelor's degree. And then you can move to bachelor's 15, et cetera, if you further your education.
What do you mean by placed appropriately?
In terms of years of experience.
Alright, so is there a motion to approve the side letter adding associate nurse and teachers under apprenticeship license, under apprenticeship license, career technical education license to the master agreement? Don is the first, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Steve is second, any other discussion on this? So, just to clarify, these are nurses who have an RN, they are registered nurses, but they have an associate's in education? Or
No, they have an associate's in
degree
nursing,
in totally nursing, okay,
or it could be another.
whatever it is, sure, okay. Alright, any other discussion on this? Alright, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0.
Just to clarify, they do have an associate nurse educational license that comes with the job, so
Gotcha.
they are educationally licensed as well as clinically licensed. Thank you.
Alright, next we have board resolutions. Terry, would you like this one?
Do you have it?
I do, I'm gonna share it. And Yeshua, if I email it to you, can you print them for any board member who
Absolutely.
might actually, it just occurred to me that that might be a good thing.
Yep.
So, we had two, Terry, do you wanna talk about, the fact that you solicited ideas from board members?
Yes, and Don, thank you. You were trying to get to us, and Julie wrote it with the help of the booklet that came about. And Devin had sent some emails and just different conversations we were having about how important it is to advocacy being one of the board goals, and that this was pretty important about advocacy. And one of it had to deal with, which you're gonna find out, the ag program, which has something to do with the ag program, it's kind of in there. But the other thing is about the bonding, because we've had the public, a member of the public or a couple members ask us about that, so we're seeking clarity on that. So you'll see what the two ones that we're suggesting when Julie pulls them up.
Let me get back into the Zoom meeting so I can share them.
Thank you.
And actually, you should have them soon. I sent them, but they'll go around the planet before they end up in your inbox.
And in the clouds.
Hold on, because apparently
I'm ready, Julie.
you're a mean person, but I love you.
He's got your back, he's got your back.
I was trying to join, but it was not letting me for some reason. There we go. I should never have exited, but I'm always afraid I'm gonna start echoing or something strange will happen.
It's very thoughtful. While you're doing that, I mean, when I said it has something to do with the ad, we really are trying to do something so that we can get clarity about how to support what our school does, because we think it's really important. And the way we're geographically, and I think we've had some of these conversations as a board.
So I took the structure of the board resolution. The VSBA created a little workbook for us, and they want specific kind of language. They want us to cite the statutes, and and there was a bill in the legislature, which I think is really what Don was hoping would happen, which is expanding governance and funding for technical center education. So I've used some of the language from that bill as well. So,
They're the same, I think.
Same thing.
Yeah, I got it here.
whereas 16 VSA section 1571 defines a regional career and technical center school district and regional CTE center school districts as a district that maintains a regional career technical center under a governance structure approved by a vote of the electorate pursuant to this subchapter. We'd like to have that language.
Okay.
So go ahead.
This one really, I'm lost with this one.
Okay.
So I wanna understand it a little bit, and I don't know if I should just let you keep going, or, like, even the first one, I need some clarification on, like, what,
What is a regional CTE?
yeah, sure,
The
like,
purpose of this resolution is something Don brought up, which is regional technical center funding and governance needs to be explored.
so,
And
right
it's-
now, the regional technical center is at BFA.
The governance of technical center education is very prescribed through state regulation and in statute. And we are assigned to the Northwest Technical Center as a region. So we do have to send our students to that tech center unless, and there's some other things that we can do. But and we have to send tuition dollars to the school for that purpose. And there's been a bill in the legislature, there have been models of financial, a different way of financing technical center education. And there's a request out there to look at the governance structures of technical education to expand opportunities for students, which is what we're trying to get at here.
So right now, the governance is centralized at the state level? Fair to say, there's no local.
The BFA school, the Maple Run School Board is the board of
Right,
governance
so
for
we
that tech center.
we don't have any
No, we pay-
representative,
no, we pay
but technically the career center is regional,
It is regional
but it's governed by
by that board.
by a single district.
And they also follow rules of having, I can't think of the word, but regional, they have advisory boards for each of their professions as well, so they have input in their
So are we saying that we're okay with that governance structure?
We're saying that we would like there to be an examination of the funding structure. One of the ideas that's out there is they're talking about funding technical education through taxes directly so that it's not, oh, Beth Ann wants to go to the tech center, so we have to spend a certain amount of money as if we were in tuition, so that it wouldn't be affecting local budgets.
So, but we're not addressing the governance.
We kinda are.
Well, we could.
We kinda are, we're putting it in there.
It is in there, yes,
There's
it's asking about governance.
There is a portion of the tech FTE for tuition.
Yes.
Students that we report on that comes straight from the state of Vermont also.
Yes, we do get some funding for it, depending on how many students we send,
It's a portion.
but we send tuition too. It's a complicated system, and the request in the bill that was in the legislature that got stalled was asking for a study to improve access to tech ed in Vermont.
So the system now really is a disincentive, if there's such a word as disincentive, to send students to the tech center. If you're a local school district, and your students go there, then, even though there's some funding involved by state, I think it still is a disincentive. There are different models. I think the Middlebury area has a different model.
Hanford Career Technical
Hanford
Center,
different model.
they have a wider, and they have their own board. So there are multiple models of tech center education in Vermont, including our own, which is just a single holdover from many years ago.
You mean our own meaning?
Our ag program
right.
is considered a tech program, but it is not a regional technical center. They mean two different things.
And we would like other schools to send their kids here.
But regional in this current law really is a geographic term. It really has nothing to do but with authority, holding on the budget, determining the curriculum. They're all there, and there's something called an advisory committee. I've attended them in about 5 different regions. And as long as you're happy with what you want to do, but when the conflict comes or competition comes, then money's involved. Sometimes that gets a little challenging. It needs to be seriously looked at.
And so what I did is I used the language of the statute that defines what regional technical center education is. And that quality and access to technical education in Vermont is key to the individual success of many Vermont students, as well as being of prime importance to a robust Vermont economy. And the current funding and governance models of regional technical education are often at odds with the goal of increasing opportunities and access for career technical education. And then this is the part that the board, should it choose to do this resolution, would say, be it resolved that the General Assembly should require the Agency of Education to identify and propose new models of funding and governance structures to improve the quality, duration, and access to career technical education in Vermont. That statement is taken directly out of a bill that has been proposed in the legislature for a couple of legislative sessions. Dawn, I think, is aware of that bill, but it keeps sort of getting stalled because of competing interests. So if that captures, that is my draft at capturing what you wanted to happen, Dawn.
I think it's very good. I tried to get to Terry before your meeting, and then I had to go to a meeting, never did. So I just want to toss one thing out, and I'm not saying it should be there, but one of the things that I was thinking of, Terry, if we'd ever connected, was because there is a tremendous need for employing people with skills in the trades or whatever, or from a chef to a plumber, whereas there is a shortage or a tremendous need, and that many of the current people in those positions are near retirement age, it is essential, or some other word, that the career in technical education be properly and fully supported. I don't know, I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, but that was what, and I started to email or text it, but it never really got through to you, and I said, I want to talk with her about it. Well, you can leave it like this, but that's the only thing I would consider, even, because it gives a little different flavor to it than from a school district perspective. It's broader. It's like we want to make sure all our citizens can call a plumber or an electrician or a chef. But anyway, think about it. But if you approve it as it is here, that's fine.
If you want to send me that language, I'm happy to.
You think I can say the same thing twice?
If you want to send me an email, I can definitely.
I can work with you tomorrow and get something.
Yeah, and then we can bring it back to the next
I
one.
think you have the gist of it. Now,
It was your idea,
Yeah.
so I wanted it to represent.
Let me ask you this, what's the filing date for this? I'm supposed to know.
June 15th,
So we got.
so if you
Oh, so
do
we
it
do
at our
have
next
time.
board
I
meeting,
have
it
to,
should
I'm
be
on the
fine.
committee, so I should know what it means, so I
Yeah, I
don't
was
look at
gonna
the
say
June.
that.
I'm not worried about it. Okay.
May
All right.
31st is good.
Good job, good job.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
No, that's good, thank you. Do you think it's strong enough in there about the governments? Because that's what we.
I think it is. Sometimes you can make these too strong. The other thing I
It's
would
very
say
subtle.
to you is, it depends who's on the committee, and you got a report this week who's on the committee. Sometimes some of the people on the committee want a wordsmith. I'm not a wordsmither. Give me the idea, we'll make it work. If we wordsmith, then I may come back to you and say, can we put this instead of this? No big deal.
Great, thank you.
And I had another resolution, but apparently Toby didn't take the lead on that. Is he on your committee?
He dropped out.
I'm not anymore. I'm on facilities.
To be on Julia.
I could be.
The other one that I thought might come forward, but apparently it's not, and maybe it shouldn't, but I remember the legislation when we did school choice, and we had students come and testify on request, and they said, we can't get enough math in our school, we're a small school, we only go for trig, only sciences, nothing beyond chemistry and physics. Sometimes they had alternate years. We really would like to see school choice so we could do that. So being good people we pushed it through. I think year one, but maybe year two, we looked at the students that did it, more than half of them, and we didn't have good data, so I'm probably talking off the top of my head, but I would say more than half they went to play hockey, they went to play softball, they went to play some sport. That was never the intent, but who were we? We were just a bunch of old ladies and gentlemen who thought we were doing something good for academics. And I'm not saying sports aren't important. I think athletics are very important. Some may have gone for music, I don't know. So anyway, someday we'll write that resolution.
Well, we have another resolution.
And you may want to talk about that one. The one we did on surety bonds references 3 different statutes because surety bonds come up in 3 different statutes. Both Jay Deneau and a parent that often comes to school board meetings, Tammy Underwood, has spoken to us about this. The legislature did actually pass a bill that states what this resolution is asking, and that is that school districts have an option to purchase appropriate criminal liability insurance, which all schools do and all towns do. So there are 3 different statutes listed here because they all have to do with surety bonds. Some of them have to do more with towns and select boards. And the one that is Title 16, 492 is the one that's more direct to about school boards. But they did just pass an amendment to that law that changes it so that you can choose to provide suitable crime insurance coverage in lieu of a blanket bond. So that you may not actually need this now,
Yeah.
but we didn't know which way the legislature was going to go. And Devin had asked that we do a resolution on surety bonds, so that's why this is here.
I think we submit it. And if the committee looks at me and says, don't you ever look at anything as a board member? I say sometimes, but no, I do. I think it's good on the record. Because you never know what happens to these things.
Yeah.
You know, somebody could come in next year or 2 years and say, they don't need that, and it's just not working. So it's good leverage.
And we are looking at the criminal liability insurance as well we're pushing back on our insurance carrier to see if it could be increased. And we also are investigating what costs are for a separate policy as well, should the school board choose to do that, have additional liability insurance.
Does the legislation have minimum limits?
No, it just says, I believe the word is suitable. And so that's up for interpretation.
That might be something at some point, but not, maybe not here, but, you know, in some cases you have to have a minimum amount of coverage. Like that's on auto insurance and things, so.
Right.
But we'll leave that alone, this is good.
Yeah. Alright, so, based on Don's recommendation, I guess, I think we should go ahead and look for a motion. I guess, before we do that though, I just wanna back up for anybody who's watching this, wondering what we're talking about with these resolutions.
Yes.
These are, to be, if we approve any of these, they would be submitted to the Vermont School Boards Association, which they would then present them to all districts that are members throughout the state of Vermont for a vote. And if any of these resolutions are approved by that vote, then it becomes a topic of advocacy for the Vermont School Boards Association throughout the year. And since they are essentially our advocate at the state level, that's kind of what we're doing, is communicating with them and trying to get the things that are concerned our district onto the agenda of that group. So,
So that it'll be a while.
yeah, so the timeline, as Don mentioned, we have, June 15th we submit it, and does anyone know when?
We meet in June, I think the week after that, and then what'll happen is the annual meeting is on the third week of October usually, and it'll be voted there by the general public, well, by the appointed or elected representatives from each school board of the state.
Just in time for the next legislative session.
That's the idea.
October
That's
was
the
sooner
idea.
than I expected.
Yeah.
So
It gives the VSBA's board and staff some direction.
Right.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard the phrase herding cats, well, this helps herding cats.
It is a nice opportunity for this board to, you wanted
Kinda stick
to
up.
do some more advocacy as a board, so it's an opportunity.
As another one for future years possibility, I'm kind of interested in is the Vermont Principals Association and the governance of it. It's kind of mixed in New England. And that could be an interesting one. I don't know, it's probably pretty controversial, but I don't think that there's much oversight at all over the VPA, and they influence a lot of activities that are affecting our kids. And some states have that as a differently governed. In Massachusetts, other states, neighboring states do it quite a bit differently. So that's something interesting.
I'm going to support you even though you haven't supported me on that. And also, and Julie knows this, Laura knows this, but we pay a pretty healthy sum, I think, for the BPA. Right?
We pay them. I don't know the number off the top of my head.
So, yeah, if either of you are feeling ambitious, then there is still time.
Well, I think two from us, this is like, I haven't been on a board yet where we've done these, so I think it's great that we're, our board is
I think
attempting
many,
to-
many, many years ago, Jack McCarthy may have us do something
Yeah.
that the superintendents wanted done, so.
Yeah,
So,
These are coming from you, not.
I
Yeah.
think,
Alright.
I think it's great.
So yeah, we'll continue to look at these. If I mean, in all seriousness, we do have 2 meetings before June 15th, right? So
I would say for this year, let's go with it, these are pretty safe,
Can I-
these two aren't safe.
just to clarify, Don, Julie's doing the rewriting. You mean on that tech ed where it says, and whereas it talks about the prime importance to a robust Vermont economy that we have a next, and whereas the current situation, personnel,
Probably 2 whereas.
something, so put a whereas there, and then the next one, whereas the current funding, okay, so something like that.
So on the tech ed, we're gonna wait for that edit. We'll put this on our next meeting. On the surety bonds, is there a motion to propose this resolution to the VSBA?
As a proposal.
Submit this resolution to the VSBA, I guess.
So you're looking for a motion for the surety bond?
Yes.
I'll make it, and I do have discussion, so I'll make
Okay.
a motion to submit this surety bond.
So Toby's the first, Steven's the second.
Sure.
I just, because this is written in legalese, kind of, it's probably not a typo, but the first one where it says "and" in all caps, there's a period, and then
Right.
it says "and" before, that's
Saw that too.
that's supposed to be like that, or?
Probably not, that's me.
So is it like comma and before,
Which, I'm looking at the wrong one.
the
Surety bond.
the first paragraph, the first.
Oh, yes, yes, I found it, and I will double check that, because it may,
It wouldn't be surprise me if it's supposed to be like that, it's just
Right.
the way,
because I copied it right out of the statute,
and it's capital on before, so I.
which is, I never start a sentence
Yeah.
beginning with an N, because I'm.
You say no.
So it may be a comma, and I can actually.
I would think it would be a comma and not capital.
I think it's.
I will double check.
I know, they might have been feeling pretty forceful.
So I'm inclined to approve the motion based upon Julie
Double checking.
double checking.
Alright.
I'd agree.
Any other discussion on surety bond? Alright, all those in favor of submitting the surety bond resolution to the VSBA, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Alright, thank you everyone on that. Old business now, we're gonna talk about the board self-assessment, and I believe that'll be Terry and Julie. Whoever would like to take the lead.
Julie, you wanna take the lead?
Oh,
Well, you're doing all the work, so.
no, well, the board
We're
goals
asking
committee
you.
met for a long time and had a long conversation about last year, you took 2 kinds of surveys to assess yourself as a board. One of them was about your progress on the goals you set for yourself. And then the second one was a longer survey where the committee had looked at different board self-assessments and took a lot of questions and put them together and then reviewed them and shared that at the retreat. And we discussed it for quite a period of time. And we're going to try to do a board goals thought exchange. So looking at your 3 board goals in terms of community engagement, policy adoption, and board advocacy, can't think of the word, we just did it, that you would have a quick, just 3 question survey. Do you agree that you did well? Do you think you attained it? You partially did or not very well? And then really the important part of the thought exchange is propose some ideas. I think we should continue to work on community engagement. And then propose a couple of ideas. And I'd like to try this new thing. So have separate thoughts. Don't bundle them together in one thought. And then you can, and it would just be for your board. And then you'll rate each other's thoughts, oh, a lot of people agree we need to work on community engagement, okay. Then you will review that at the retreat and look and see if that helps you set goals for next year for yourselves. So I will send out an email with a link. And it's a very easy thing to do. I could show you how to do it now, but I don't think we need to do that. But it's very straightforward to just go in. It does not tell me Toby's thoughts are these three. It won't tell me who's participated. It's completely anonymous that way.
We'll still know which one Toby picked.
Toby's getting picked
We
on.
might know each other better than we think.
Of course, there is always that, right? But in other words, it's not if you vote a certain way about attainment of goals or share different thoughts. It's in your voice, and people will rate the degree to which they support or agree with what you said. It's a nice way for you all to see each other's ideas and then compile that in one place.
But you're gonna lump them, right? It'll be a lump, and we'll say at a scale of 1 to 10, for example, 7 people said this, and then we'll review it at the
Well,
retreat.
it'll do two things, Steve.
Okay.
The first, and maybe I will see if I can.
Maybe, yeah.
I'll do a share.
And just while you're pulling that up, remember last time you
Yeah.
had that huge
Yeah.
survey and I had errors and yeah, this is gonna be a lot easier and hopefully everyone will do it and it won't give us a grid of 20.
Yeah, that's when you called me an overachiever. Yeah.
Yes, this will be a
Because I
quick
did mine the next day.
down and yes, thank you. You had to do it 3 times or something, yes. Learning
So
curve,
this is
steep
not-
learning curve.
This was not the one I wanted to do. This would be if we were doing it live, you could do it right now. Right, so that's not what I want to be doing with you. But I can show you what the questions will be here, and this is, again, it's too small, I have to.
That's good.
The question would be, in reflecting on the board's growth areas in these areas, and I listed it elsewhere in the question, your 3 goal areas. Look, the word areas is in 3 places in this one sentence. In which areas should the board continue to focus, or in what other areas should the board try to develop? I will make that question a little bit better, so it doesn't use the same word.
But I think we needed clarity, so
Yes.
good.
But basically, where do you think we should focus as a board and continue to focus? And is there a new area that you think the board needs to work on? And again, this is your work together as a board, not the district goals.
Okay.
And then, and I have more description here of what that will look like, including how to rate, it's 1 star if you don't agree with that thought, and it's 5 stars if you really agree with it, and anything in between. And then there would be questions such as, how successful do you believe the MVSD board was in meeting its goal to develop strategies and expand opportunities to increase community engagement? You were unsuccessful, you were partially successful, you were successful. So you get 2 things, Steve.
As a group or as a person?
You individually
Okay.
rate what you think
Okay.
the board did.
Okay.
So, and it's completely subjective.
Okay.
Do you think that we were partially successful at engaging the community? You did more things as a board than usual? Do you think, heck no, with COVID and everything, we really didn't do much at all? Any of those. So it's really just your opinion as a board member about how you think the board did.
Okay.
So we'll get 2 kinds of answers at the end. There'll be a little pie chart with how well people thought they did.
Okay.
Just successful, partially, and unsuccessful. You get the pie chart for each of your 3 goals. And then you'll be able to see the thoughts that you all shared about where you think we should continue and where you should maybe focus and develop in a new area.
Okay.
I do want to just, because Joanne, I noticed you shaking your head too. It's really because the conflicting language sometimes, how well do you think you did? It's more, how well did we as a board do, as opposed to how well did Terry do at advocating or at doing this or that? Is different than I think about.
That's why I have a little problem, Joanne. Maybe you might agree with me, but I don't know what they've done. I don't know what you've done.
So I guess perception
I
is
know
what we're
what I
looking for.
have not done.
I think we're looking for perception.
So is this separate from the board goals that we talked about and established in terms of like the 1, 2, 3 what we're trying to do in terms of like policies, priorities? Is that separate, or are we just evaluating our thoughts on number 1? Because I had said in the previous meeting, like, I think it should be small and quick and not wholly related to us coming together and creating and talking about the policies and focus areas that we want to do, as opposed to just putting in this exchange.
We're doing two things. So we're also gonna come out with some actual data of how many policies we did and things like that. But we wanted the perception data as well, but where you think, we should be going next.
I don't feel comfortable. I mean, I'm not gonna speak for Jen, I'm not gonna speak for Devin, I just don't think that,
No, but we're looking at this as a goal, as a board.
as a
But
board,
that's what he doesn't
As a-
feel comfortable with.
I don't feel
See, that's what I
comfortable with
think
it.
he's
I
saying.
don't know, because we're all in different areas, and yeah, I can tell you that I've been slipping this year, and I haven't been to a lot of meetings, but I don't know what everybody else is doing, and I can't speak for them.
I hadn't thought of that, I don't think that came up, but it did come up, what you were saying, Rennick, in terms of we needed a 2-part thing, we need this for some of the subjective, but then, because we wanted to think of perception, but then we needed the inputs and outputs kind of thing with the number of policies that we've done with the, some
My
quantity.
understanding was that it was gonna be, like, that was gonna be more geared towards just, a self-evaluation of,
Personal.
like, the number 1, like, how does everybody maybe feel about what they did as a member of the board of community engagement? And then the other 2 in terms of what are the policies that we have, what are we considering enacting, what are we considering doing, and what is our direction for board, was things that we were going to discuss together at the retreat.
Oh.
That was my understanding.
Oh, next,
Me too.
that's, I think,
Ah.
my understanding is that would be a separate conversation. Every fall, the board would, whether it's in the board goals committee or the board as a whole, typically reviews what's been done, looks at the calendar of what needs to be reviewed, and then looks at what policies are we gonna prioritize to work on this year. So that's part of the board's work every year.
Oh, that's why, I wondered about your timing on why you thought, okay, so that's what you,
That's what I thought we were doing.
that's why, okay. Yeah, maybe we need to regroup.
Well, I mean, I think what Julie's presented is probably what we're after for a board retreat, where it's a high level. Do we believe this board as a whole achieved or didn't achieve the goals? And then the goals committee does the details of here are the policies we're gonna do, here's the advocacy items we're gonna promote, like, that's that separation. But the retreat we're gonna be talking about in a minute, it's got strategic planning and a few other topics, but part of that is then talking about how the board did or did not achieve the goals we set out for ourselves this past year, and reaffirming or adjusting those goals for the upcoming year, which then the goals committee would take the lead on the specifics and then bring to the whole board to achieve. Steven?
Do we have to do it individually, or can we do it at the retreat as a group?
In terms of answering the questions, I mean, it's helpful to have that distribution of responses. I'll say if you're not comfortable answering, putting one in, that's fine. I think we'll get enough, but the value's gonna be the discussion. Those survey results are really just a starting point for that conversation. And so, we might get some set of scores, and then after we talk about it, arrive at a completely different conclusion, and that's fine too.
It's really just a reflection tool.
The way that I'm gonna look at it, I'm not looking at this personally. I'm looking at this as, we have no power personally anyway. We have no power by ourselves.
Exactly.
It's all what we do as a board. So when I'm answering these questions, I'm not necessarily thinking what I did. I'm thinking, what did we come to for agreements as a board to move forward with communication? What are the things that we did, communication as a whole? That's one topic, but obviously there's other things. But I think we have to look at it as what did we do how well did we come together deciding on things and getting things done, not what we did personally to make that happen. So to me, we shouldn't feel personal about, answering any of these questions. It's how did we do as a board? I mean, everybody has, sometimes you can't make meetings, it's just, it's the way it is, we all try our best, and that's not what we're getting at. Obviously, we have a goal to try to make all the meetings that we can, but we're not grading it personally, we're grading it as a board.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it.
Good point, good point.
Really, I think the biggest piece really is the reflection of, do you think we need to continue in any of these areas? And are there new areas that you'd like to see the board? And then that drives the discussion at your retreat.
I'm a little concerned, Rennick, that we had different ideas coming out of that meeting. So I don't know what we need to do about that.
I think we can figure that out by the retreat.
What's that?
We could probably figure that out by the retreat.
Well, but I mean, that was part of the conversation tonight too, was asking people what they really wanted to see at the retreat, which, this is different. A survey is different than what you want to see at the retreat.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Are there any other self-assessment specific items? Because the next item on here is the retreat
retreat
discussion, so we'll just transition into
Segue into
that.
it, sorry.
So, all right, yep, go ahead. We'll go right to that.
And actually, so we, just to go back to our meeting, we did talk about a lot of things, and we talked about the perception and the data, and then we also talked about the retreat and what we wanted to see happen at the retreat. And one of the discussions we had was that, we meet, but we don't really know that much about each other. We know Peter had someone graduate last year, we know that, different things like that, but we don't really, when we know that, Don has a whole, experience in
Don has
education.
nothing else to do, right?
No, Don has a lot of background in education and legislation, but, we don't really know that much about each other. And one of the things that Joanne did last year when we had those questions when we ate, so I think that's an important part of the retreat, but we do have a short amount of time, and we, typically retreats are, so you sit back and you think and you do planning and strategic planning, right, that you can't do, on these bi-monthly meetings. Is that
Pour water on it, but I'll have to tell you, again, it's in the past, but a retreat was, you checked in, usually late morning, we go to lunch, work all afternoon, work in the evening, stay over at someplace, Killington or someplace, and then you work the next day till 2, 3 o'clock. And it's a whole different thing. Julie,
That's a real retreat. We got you for maybe 3 hours.
And it's hard. The first time we did it in Fairfax, we decided we'd go to Windjammer in the Clever Place, and did we ever get criticized at the next public meeting for taking taxpayer money to go eat at the Windjammer and do all that stuff. So you're gonna risk, but anyway.
But we're not implementing, so so we don't have as much to do like when the principals and everybody get together. There's just gonna be a lot more, like a weekend.
What I was just talking about was school board.
Right, just the school board.
Oh, yeah, school board.
Are you making a motion to have it at the weekend?
Well, let me tell you why. One man was a manager at GE, one was a manager at IBM, and one lady had her own business. And they said, if we're really gonna do this at a professional level, we're gonna get out of town. And some people want to stay out of town, they don't. But we did spend a lot of money. But it's a whole different thing. I'm sure the hospital was the same. Maybe not.
Not anymore.
Varying levels.
I think things have really changed from what I've seen.
And we invited people to come. Like if we wanted to hear about the athletic program, we'd have a John Lumsden come in for a call. We would want a curriculum, Tasha would come.
Well, let's
forget that. Let's get back to
Well, I think the principals and administration might do some of that, but for us, I guess it's really important to just maybe instead of having a big group meeting now, people could send any ideas they have, and that we will work on it too as our group and come up with it. But strategic planning is a must, but getting to know one another a little better is a good idea too. If any of you have any ideas about that, that would be great.
I just got a new dog.
Okay, let's save it for the retreat. You can tell us.
Oh my gosh, Terry.
3 things at the retreat.
That's too funny.
So,
You wanna talk about things?
well, I was gonna say, Julie, if you'd like to just kind of talk about what is queued up for
Yeah.
the retreat at this point, and
Okay,
then
thank
we'll talk about.
I'll bring pictures of the dog.
So that's good. We have, last time I talked to you about a possible facilitator, I had some conversations with her and then had some conversations with Phil Gore, who is at the Vermont School Board Association, and talked a bit with Terry, a little bit with Devin, and we are gonna work with Phil Gore.
I am so pleased, because I was going to share that with you. I didn't want to text that because he was kind of, he was here,
Right.
but he was not officially on.
But I have heard really wonderful things about his skill set, and it's about time that we have somebody top-notch for board development in Vermont. I had one really delightful conversation with him. He will be having a meeting with me and Devin and Terry next week, and talk about what you would like to do. He is on board to do long-term strategic planning with this board and our administrative team. So I expect that he would help facilitate your, and work with you around your retreat, do a little bit of a preview of what strategic planning looks like. But that process, so you may focus less on your district goal stuff at your retreat and save that for your strategic planning process. But he will work with us as a board and administrative team, and probably some in the community as well, around strategic planning.
He's done more in 2 meetings, he's had 2 meetings with the board than we've probably done in the last 2 or 3 years to move forward. I mean, he knows how very much. He's pretty insistent that if you're going to really be serious about it, there are certain things that he has a nice personality. He's worked in a number of states.
Yes.
And he chose to come to Vermont to live, so I'm very pleased to hear that. It's not that I don't like the airport superintendent, it's
Well, I just thought that the other person's approach was not what the board would be looking for.
And we pay dues to VSBA for services.
That's perfect.
And here's this fellow who's nationally recognized right here in Vermont working.
Yes.
I'm so pleased that that's happening.
Great. And Steve, I do care about your dog. You'll have to show me pictures afterwards.
I will show you, I don't know, I have them with me.
So, I guess I would say we're having that meeting next Tuesday is the schedule, so if folks have thoughts about what they'd like to see at the retreat, I know Joanne has graciously volunteered to maybe solicit some thoughts from anyone we don't hear from. But if you get those thoughts to us prior to Tuesday, we could have those as part of that meeting too, to kind of coordinate, and that might be the best way.
Did we finalize the location?
We have not yet.
Oh.
But it you know,
I'll
I'm
be
sure it's
replaying.
not gonna be the Windjammer. Pretty sure.
I like your escargot though, really good.
But we will look for something that's a little closer to home, but not necessarily in, you know, the library or the cafeteria. We wanna have people be comfortable, get up, move around. Where we went last time was good, but I haven't checked with them, so we won't say anything.
If I could,
July 12th, which is that Tuesday of that week.
A Tuesday?
Evan, I know you said email it. One of the things I think would help Phil, if Julie or somebody would let him know a little bit about the demographics of northwestern Vermont, where we reside. You know, he's coming from various states, he's traveled the state already, but everybody thinks they're unique, but I think we are unique. Because we are so close to Chittenden County, which is really the economic driver of the state of Vermont. But yet we aren't an urban area, we're a very rural area, so that might help him.
schedule.
You're gonna like him, Terry, he's all,
Scheduling is a
Yeah.
big deal,
he's done things like you, but
so the sooner the better. I have to put in for the
I think we have the
date.
The date's set, so I can do that.
July 12th is that date, and last year we started at 5, so we'll be
Toby.
we'll be
Yeah, I was late. Yeah. Well, I wasn't late for the retreat. I
No.
was just late for the meeting.
Right, just missed the meeting totally.
So we'll penciling in a 5 p.m. start. So think just late afternoon, early evening start is the idea.
Okay. I'll just take the day.
July 12th is up what day of the week?
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday this week.
All right. I think we've covered all of that for now. So send any thoughts to Terry or Joanne or myself or Julie. Doesn't matter. We'll all coordinate.
And Rennick's on the committee too.
And Renee, sorry.
I did the retreat, is it just board members or is it include like other staff faculty? I've never been.
It is just the board. This is focused on really our groups trying to develop and make plans for the next year. All right, we're on to other business. New teacher hires.
So I have met, we've been plugging away at our new teacher hires. So for Highgate, I met with Matthew Carroll, who will be a first grade teacher here at Highgate. I also met with Brittany Moore, who will be an English language arts teacher at MVU, replacing Miranda Becker, who will be doing literacy coaching next year. Dana Kubek, who is going to be our new health education teacher, replacing Shelley Walsh at MVU. And this afternoon I met Wesley Kempton, who will be joining MVU as a social studies teacher, replacing Courtney Monier. And yesterday I met with Ruth Ackerman, who will be teaching art at Franklin 1 day a week. And so they were all very impressive candidates, and we're very lucky to be moving forward with them. So hopefully the board will approve those positions.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the new teacher hires as listed. Terry's the first.
I'll second that.
Steve is second. Any discussion?
And that's for
For superintendent recommendation?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions?
No, go ahead, I wanna ask you a question. after
Motion
that.
carries 9-0. Don?
Julie, did I miss it? Have we hired a nurse to replace the nurse that left us?
I don't think we have hired yet, have we?
We're in the process.
We're in the
Bonnie is
process.
working with her.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she hasn't met with me yet, so
Okay.
we're at that step,
All right.
probably at the next board meeting.
Can I ask that question? I'm not going to mention names, but that nurse was with you for a while. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Now we have a teacher resignation.
Yes, I just want to, I put it in the drive, we have a teacher at MVU Middle School who signed his contract. However, his wife is just accepted a position in California, so he's resigning his teaching position. And so we would,
Legit.
right, I would suggest that the board accept his letter of resignation.
What would happen if we didn't?
I don't know, but I would
You got
bet
room
he
to
still
rent?
does California.
Yeah, that's what you really wanna know, Peter?
That's exactly, it just seems like these contracts are one way. It doesn't, I mean, they sign them, and we couldn't break it.
Or they couldn't work in Vermont as a teacher.
No,
if they
No,
break.
I understand, but I'm just saying.
It really, it has some teeth currently. There was some legislation that was a little worrisome, that was going to really weaken our ability to hold teachers to a contract. It was basically going to allow teachers to be free agents at any time. And that would be very bad for our ability to staff school. At this point, generally the only people who do that are people who have something serious going on in their life or something that is, they're moving across the country. And so they wouldn't be teaching again in Vermont. But we don't release teachers from contract because the school district next door said, oh, we think you'd be great to teach here. And superintendents actually will not interview a teacher that is under contract in another district.
If a teacher does leave, they can't teach in Vermont, right? So,
You're not supposed to teach under their license in Vermont, no.
so there is something we can do about it.
Alright, is there a motion to accept this resignation? Joanne's the first, is there a second? Jem's the second? Alright, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Alright, future agenda items. Still have a pretty good list of items here. We have the end of year recovery plan update. We'll be looking at continuous improvement plans. The next three are tentatively penciled in for our next meeting on May 31st, which would be the audit report, guidance, post-secondary outcomes, and PLP end of year data, and an update on grading transcripts. And our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 31st, which counts as our first meeting in June. So it will be May 31st and then June, 13th? And that'll be at the MVU library at 6:30 p.m., May 31st.
And just of interest, since we've been talking about board goals, there will be another board goals meeting on Monday, June 6th. And that was so that everyone could hopefully attend.
Thank you.
And we will be doing some of the recovery plans and continuous improvement information there, so that, then they will be, shared with the full board, in June, I believe, June. And there's a facility task force meeting May 31st before the board meeting, at 4 noon.
Also at MVU library?
It wasn't, but it will be, yes.
Okay.
This is the meeting that was and has been and is, right?
Ever shall be.
Julie, I know you're trying to get everybody together, but sometimes it really is helpful to be able to zoom in. So can you continue to do that? And I'll be here if I can, and if I can't, I'll be on this.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
And I'll make a comment on the end of year recovery plan. Anyone who's really interested in that, I'm sure it'll be very detailed at the board goals committee meeting. It'll be more of a summary level presentation here for the full board. So if you have particular interest, try to tune into that board goals committee meeting.
And we'll pay attention to anybody on Zoom this
It's June 6th.
June 6th.
June 6th, yes.
I know what you're talking about.
All right. That concludes our agenda. So at this point,
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, we've got lots of hands.
No, you're not gonna let you add. Joanne wants to say something, or were you gonna adjourn?
No, that's Peter's job.
That's
I
right.
would ever.
Before you adjourn, I really enjoy coming to these meetings because I look forward to Laura's report. And Laura hasn't said a word tonight.
No, she
First time in almost 2 years and I haven't had to say anything.
But I guess I would ask.
I was waiting and
I should have, did I miss?
So Laura, are you feeling good about where we are with, expenditures? I know these administrators next year are spending money wildly.
They
and
are,
you have to control them.
I have a no button now.
And I know the state keeps changing the revenue projections. Hopefully they can't anymore, but I just was curious if there was anything.
There's another financial report on that coming soon. Yeah,
Okay.
we're working through all the year-end stuff, but it's slowing down for sure. Yeah.
Good.
And I have AP that I have to approve, and I'll get that to you tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, overachiever.
So sorry, I just need to take a step back. With the future agenda items, I was just wondering if we could hear from, and I know not the next one because we're very full, but from HR, because we, as far as the exit interviews with the teachers, because we had a decent, negotiation meeting with them. So just curious if that helped, if it didn't help, it was for other reasons that teachers were leaving.
Right, that's part of the data we'll be bringing to board goals, to really get a sense of how many, I think we did a survey last year, and then Bonnie reached out to individuals, with interviews, should they want to do that. So we will gather that information again.
Great.
Alright,
It's kind of quick, I promise. It's more about, it's kind of it's about the, I know that MVU is selling plants and, the beef, and I don't know about the syrup or anything, but if you have kids at the school, I think it goes a lot easier. And if you don't have kids at the school, I think it's really hard to have access to it. And I just wonder if there's a plan or how you do it, like the general public.
Where, the flowers?
Well, for any of this, like also the, I think you have to schedule a time or.
They actually, so I went last week
I
and
went last week.
right? And what day did you go? I went on Friday.
I went on Thursday.
Okay,
Beautiful, weren't they?
so it's easy, I mean, I'm just
No.
wondering.
Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, no, I just emailed, yeah, and he's there, he goes there, for a certain time span in the afternoon. And then he was like, if that doesn't work for you, let me know. And you just let him know and he'll.
Is it the same stuff they have in McEwen's?
They grow their own.
But don't they sell them in McEwen's too?
Oh, from MVU as well?
I think so.
Oh, from MVU, what a good idea. I just wondered how they do it.
And
I
then
mean,
Oh,
syrup,
Joanne
they do have
McWilliams.
maple syrup they're gonna get rid of this year, not get rid of
Joanne
themselves.
McWilliams.
Right.
She knows
So we put
everything.
that if you have Facebook. And if you click on the
Joanne, we know it
MVSD
all.
school, and you follow it, and you can see.
That's what I know her by.
It's just like with
So it is easier for public.
Yeah, especially kids.
Okay, if they're not on Facebook.
All
You didn't
else
hear that,
fails,
though.
call Joanne McWilliams and she'll come.
She knows everything. Good
Right.
point, right? Okay, on camera, call Joanne.
I think you're winning.
I wasn't on camera.
alright, is there
Sorry.
Would you like to adjourn, Mr. Chair?
is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll do my job.
Peters first. We have a second? Rennick's second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Alright, we are adjourned.